All right, let's move over to the college football playoff. It's been a while since we've talked. College football playoff's been out for a week. Games are approaching this Friday. The first thing I wanted to do, since we haven't talked about it on the podcast here, let's go back through the Notre Dame discussion, because this was something that if we had recorded on the Monday or Tuesday after the college football playoff, Notre Dame was in the midst of their crying, pleading, raining hell down on whoever for whatever reason. They had been left out of the playoff for the logical reason of Miami jumps them. I do not blame them for being upset that the college football playoff committee essentially just jumped them based on 0 games being played. Alabama doesn't get dropped, X, Y, and Z, right? I think we all can agree that, like, in a nutshell, if that was the issue that they had taken and that was the angle that they had taken in terms of complaining that the playoff committee is kind of a shill, right? It's a shell game that they run out there week after week after week, that the ratings before the final one don't really make a difference. But they went off on tangents about the ACC, talking about how the ACC, their relationship is exactly, nothing anymore. They stabbed him in the back. There's just so many issues that I took with kind of their lashing out against everyone else, that they didn't even pick the right arguments in terms of like what to complain about. Because again, at the end of the day, if they were complaining about how the committee and how they do the rankings and all of that, that's fine. But it is nobody else's fault other than their own that they didn't get into the playoff. I mean, they lost their 2 biggest games of the year. Their next best win was USC. And the final thing that I will say about them is, if you look at the teams that were selected ahead of them that were at-large bids that didn't get the auto bids, every single one of those teams had a better win than they did. So, like, if at the end of the day, in a nutshell, that's what gives me comfort at the end of the day with them being left out, because Miami beat head-to-head, but that's a better win than Notre Dame would have had. If you take the name off of it and it was a completely different team, they beat the number 13 team in the country at the end of the year. Notre Dame's best win was USC, which was like 18 or something like that at the end of the year. You look at A&M. A&M beat Notre Dame, right? You look at all these at-large bids down the line. They all had better wins, including Alabama, who had the best win of the year at Georgia. Like, if you want to try and complain about them not being penalized, then take it away. Take the losses out of it. They had a much better win than Notre Dame's best win, which was on the road at Georgia, the team that ended up just whooping them in the college football or in the SEC championship game. So let's go around the table, talk about Notre Dame and their grievances real quick before we kind of talk about some of our playoff predictions. Just wanted to touch on this topic real quick.
Yeah, my stance is I'd be pissed for one reason if I'm Notre Dame, and it's because I was 10 for however many weeks in a row in the college football playoffs, kind of indicating that no matter really what, unless like something crazy happened in championship weekend, which Duke beating Virginia was the last, I think, final straw on that.
Yeah.
But unless barring some other crazy instances, they were going to stay in, and the committee had kind of set it up for them to jump Miami, even though Miami beat them head to head. Other than that, I really don't have. I think Notre Dame's a good enough team to be in the playoffs. But the fact that you lost to Miami, who jumps you, I think that's a pretty fair point from the committee. But the fact that Notre Dame was ranked ahead of Miami for multiple weeks and then all of a sudden jumps down, I think that's kind of where the anger comes from. And I can kind of see that as well.
Yeah, and I also think this is the committee's way of kind of punishing, quote unquote, Notre Dame for not being in a conference, because they have the power to kind of play whoever they want. Yes, I know there's going to be some restrictions with some conferences and some certain teams based on who other teams have to play, but for the most part, they can play who they want. And for them to only have those certain teams and that their best win being USC, that's kind of on them. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from it. And if I'm a player at Notre Dame, I'm kind of like, what the hell? Like, especially if I'm a senior, maybe I'm not going to the league, or if I'm just, I mean, really anybody. Like, you're not going to get any of the New Year's Six bowls, obviously, because they're all playoff games now. But like, there's still some decently big bowl games there, and you work all year. You go, what, 10-2, and you don't even you're it's out of your hands at that point. And like, okay, well now I guess we're done now. No bowl game, nothing to look forward to. Like we've all talked about the bowl games, how that week when you travel, that's some of the best memories we have. And I know that might be a small little detail to most people, but I mean, if I'm a player at Notre Dame, I would have been pissed.
I want to talk about two of the things before the bowl game because I want to hit on that bowl game as well. Their schedule, I understand in a nutshell, like looking at it, how we can talk about how their schedule is not as strong, but Notre Dame's intent in scheduling, I think, is good enough and fair enough, right? Because you have to set up some of these games 3, 4, 5 years ahead of time, right? In terms of getting these home and homes scheduled, in terms of, whether they get 4 guaranteed ACC games, but the intent in scheduling, like 5 years ago, and I know a lot of people are talking about Notre Dame's schedule for next year and how bad it looks, but like 5, 6 years ago when that series with us got announced, right? Nobody looked at that and said, oh, they're trying to take the easy way out, right? Or if you look at 5 years ago or their 100-year long rivalry with Stanford or any of these teams, like in a nutshell, I get the fact that their schedule looks weak. I don't think they're one of these teams that intentionally just cherry picks and says, yeah, let's play Purdue because they're one of the worst Big Ten teams. Like it's an in-state rivalry. So the intent in their scheduling, I don't think is bad, but it just plays out. And that's the college football world right now, is it's subjective and it's year to year. So to complain about that, I think is fair. And again, they didn't win the games, but in terms of the bowl game, I have a take for you guys. And I think you will agree with me when you hear the rationale. I don't think Marcus Freeman or the team got any type of decision over them not going to a bowl game. I think the athletic director, because you haven't heard from Marcus Freeman at all since this decision has come out, since the playoff has been released. You've only heard from the press tour that the athletic director has gone on and every single major media outlet that he can, ripping the ACC, ripping college football playoff, trying to kind of throw hell upon everyone in terms of blaming everyone else but themselves, right? I don't think, and you brought up the point of how memorable and how awesome bowl games are. There is no chance in the world that team voted on it, because I think that's a lot of the way that it goes now when either you have a new coach or teams opt out of bowl games. There's probably some type of vote or decision or discussion that goes on with the team. I don't think there's any chance, any way that the team, Marcus Freeman, were to not make any type of public statement besides the athletic director going around on this press tour. And to your point, I'd be pissed if I was a Notre Dame player, if I was a senior, whether or not you have a big spot on the team. It's a great opportunity for your younger guys. If your older guys are opting out, going to the portal, going to the draft, whatever, your younger guys get to play in meaningful snaps. You get a lot of practices leading up to it, but just like the experience of what it is. I mean, you talked about the experiences, the stories that we have over the years going to bowl games. You're there for a week in whether it's Florida, California, New York, where we were for 3 of our bowl games between California and New York. Like those are experiences that are fun times between the practices. You get to go out a little bit. Then after the game, like there's a lot of very, very fun experiences that you have with the bowl game. And so I just don't buy that the team or Marcus Freeman had any type of decision over that. I think it was clearly a Notre Dame athletic department decision where they said, if we're out of the playoffs, we're not going.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost a bigger issue than if the team were to say we're not going.
Yeah. I never even really thought about it from that perspective, that they haven't really said anything like the coach and players wise, or I mean, it could have been like kind of a rash decision from the players if they did put it to a vote, like screw this, we're not freaking playing a bowl game anymore. Which is even just as sad too, because you're kind of not really knowing what you're kind of throwing away in that situation. But
yeah, and you're going home right away. Like that year that in 2016 that we didn't go to a bowl game, like that sucks. Your last game, and then you're just home for the break once you're at finals week. So
yeah,
it's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it was the players, or really regardless of who it was, everyone's kind of looking at Notre Dame now like, oh, you showed them, you really got the ACC, you got the NCAA, and now they look like a bunch of idiots, honestly, for handling that the way they did.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, just wanted to hit on that real quick. I wanted to have a little college football playoff prediction discussion here. I think we'll have some podcasts between now and when the national championship happens, but with the college football playoff kicking off on Friday between Oklahoma and Notre Dame, Oklahoma and Alabama. 4 playoff games this weekend. Before any of it starts, I want to first have a discussion between the three of us of if there is a team playing this weekend that can make a run to win the national championship or go the furthest playing this weekend, who is that team?
I'm going Alabama. One first-round game. I know away teams, Alabama's playing at Oklahoma. It's been tough. If last year shows that home teams went 4-0 in those playoff games. But it is tough to beat a team twice. And if Alabama beats Oklahoma, they have Indiana, who obviously has shown that they're very, very good, but it still kind of seems like we're waiting for that slip-up spot for Indiana where they have that bad game in the moment. It's a little too big for them. I don't think it would happen, but if there's a situation where a lower seed kind of makes a little bit of a run, I could see it being Alabama.
I've been really high. I really liked this Ole Miss team all year, and I know the whole situation with Lane Kiffin just kind of throws a wrench into everything. But those players on that team, I think they kind of want to be like, "F you, Lane Kiffin." Like let's go out there and let's go ball. So I wouldn't be shocked if they got Tulane, then they win that one, and they got Georgia, who they've already lost to this year. And we've talked about how it's hard to beat a team twice. If you're in Georgia's shoes, I think the last thing you want is a pissed off Ole Miss team coming to that bowl game.
Man, I was gonna say Oregon. I think for me it's Miami. My rationale behind this is I think they have one of the best defensive lines in the country. And if I look at their path in terms of playing A&M for being in the SEC, I think has played a softer SEC schedule. And you saw in the Texas game, the only loss that they have on the year, they weren't able to handle Texas as well as any of the other teams in the country. And even against Notre Dame, that's when Notre Dame's defense early in the year wasn't really working at its highest level. And so one of the things that I do think this weekend is I think you could see Miami come in there and kind of push their way around up front. And then on top of that, like against Ohio State, the one thing that really stuck out to me in the Big Ten championship game was when Indiana was able to make Julian Sayin uncomfortable, right? We've talked about how good Ohio State and Julian Sayin has been all year, but nobody can really match up with Ohio State up front. And for the first time, you saw a team in Indiana match up with them up front. And Miami's defensive line has probably 2 or 3 day 1 or day 2 picks on their defensive line. So I could see them in their path in terms of what they have as a unit up front, winning this weekend, and then against Ohio State, making it tough on them. I wanted to say Oregon as well, but as Tyler, before you had entered here, Brian and I were kind of just talking about it. Like I think Texas Tech's a very, very real team and a very, very legitimate threat to make it to the national championship game and threaten any team, especially Indiana, Ohio State, or Georgia, whoever comes out of it. So I would say Miami's probably my surprise team if there was one that I could pick coming out of this weekend making a run. All right, now let's make some predictions here. Again, before the playoff goes live Friday and Saturday, who do you guys have in your national championship game? And then who do you have as your national champion?
If I were a betting man, and I actually did, in fact, bet on this, I bet for Georgia to win the national championship. I think their run, they could get a pissed off Ole Miss team if Ole Miss kind of plays with some heart. But I do think Georgia outmatches them pretty well. And then they play an Ohio State team who just got beat and kind of outmanned by Indiana. So they have a somewhat easy run to the national championship. And then probably I would probably see Indiana in that spot. I know, again, it would be tough to beat a team twice if Indiana makes it to the semis and beats Oregon. But I do see Georgia kind of winning it all. And it is tough to bet against Kirby Smart. He's been there before. He's probably the only coach. I'm trying to look besides Ryan Day. He's really one of the only coaches that have been in these kind of big spots before. So I like Georgia a lot.
I really want to see this Texas Tech Indiana game. Like I hope both teams kind of hope both teams win, because that game is going to be an absolute bloodbath. Like that is going to be an absolute war. I mean, to your point, Dante, I think Tech is legit. I think they're real, but Signetti continues to prove me wrong, and so I'm done betting against him until he proves me wrong again and loses. So I have them in the national championship, and to me, the bottom of that bracket is kind of a toss up to everything you guys have been saying. I don't. Am I a homer if I have an all Big Ten championship game?
I think they're the two best teams in the country. I don't think you're wrong.
I'm kind of just leaning. I mean, Ohio State, similar to last year, they lose a game that, I mean, obviously different in the Big Ten championship, but they feel like they got a little chip on their shoulder, something to prove now. So they're going to be on a mission. I think Ryan Day knows how to light the fuse with that team, and they got too many weapons to be shut down consistently.
So you got Indiana, Ohio State, and you got Ohio State winning it all. Yeah. I'm going to go – God, I really want to take Texas Tech too. Like they're such a dark horse just because nobody's paid that much attention to them. I know, Tyler, you have a lot more since you're from Texas, and I've probably been hearing a lot more about the Texas Tech team. I'm going to go with Texas Tech as well in the national title game against Ohio State. Indiana losing one of their key defensive linemen, I think, is not great before, and I'll probably be wrong again betting against Signetti, proving me wrong in another spot. But for me, the feeling with Indiana that I get is like, this is such a new height, and not even just a new height. This is blowing everything out of the water in terms of their expectations for the team, between 13-0, number one team in the country, winning the Big Ten championship, Heisman Trophy winner, that getting to another gear to try and win the national championship, like the want to factor. And I know they obviously want to win a national championship, so it probably sounds stupid for me to even say this or coming out of my mouth, but the fact that Texas Tech is sitting there, probably haven't been as much publicly recognized as the Big Ten or SEC this year, might get them in the semifinal. I think Texas Tech's going to win that game in the semifinal. I think it's going to be Texas Tech, Ohio State. I think Ohio State repeats this year. Ryan Day, Julian Sayin, I think after they've kind of lost that game, similar, Tyler, to what you said with last year, once they lose that game, they kind of get refocused and say, all right, now, we know what happens when kind of shit hits the fan here. And so I'm going to take Ohio State. It's going to be Texas Tech, Ohio State in the national championship game. I think those are I think after the games this weekend, I think all those next games, yes. I mean, unless Tulane or JMU finds a way to win, all those games are going to be insane to watch. Yeah, I know everyone's complained about the college football playoff in terms of having those two group of 5 teams, but it sets up, to your point, with those next 8, with those 4 matchups you're going to have around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, they're going to be insane matchups, because even though I think Ohio State and Indiana are the 2 best teams in the country, I think it's pretty even across the board. Like, it would not stun me if anyone lost to anyone in that next round. Yeah. So, all right, let's wrap it here. Again, I want to reiterate, for the program initiative, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please, please, please continue to support. And we've, in the last couple weeks, couple months this year, expanding out to YouTube, continuing to expand our content. We very much appreciate all of the views, engagements, interactions that we've had with you guys, going live a couple times. And as we're coming up on the holiday season, we're very thankful for everyone that tunes in and continues to support us. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe on YouTube. Additionally, Apple or Spotify as well. We're really trying to push the YouTube here and continue to expand our content. So that is all for us. We will talk to you guys. If we don't talk to you guys before the holidays, happy holidays. Go green.